Actually, the flowers often give stains to my cloth. Yes. So I'll keep this little one. Can somebody free me from this one? Thank you. It smells very nice. Yeah, so today's topic is the false ego. As I already mentioned yesterday, actually the full seminar is about 10 to 12 hours. So tonight we are just getting some little glimpse into the whole topic. And as many of you saw already yesterday, there is a book out with that same title. So of course in the book is so much more than what we can discuss tonight. So I would like to begin by sharing a few little realizations which actually inspired me to give this topic a bit more attention. Because we don't hear so much about this topic. There's not that many books out on the false ego. And it is just so subtle that very easily we can miss it completely. And as I also mentioned yesterday, I do like to conduct holy name retreats, especially the one in Echo Chakra is very nice. And after conducting these holy name retreats for so many years, one day this realization struck me that actually our endeavors to get on deeper levels of chanting will not really bear fruits if we don't parallel work on dissolving and subduing our false ego. And if this does not take place, then our chanting we can compare to an elephant taking bath. So when the elephant takes bath, when he comes out, first thing he does, he takes his trunk and throws all the dirt back on his back. So that's exactly what we do, because after making all these efforts to chant nicely, we slide back into our false ego patterns of behaviors. And we are so trapped there. Yes, so trapped. Because for so many lifetimes we have been carrying this false ego with us. And we are just so deeply trapped in these patterns of behaviors which we've been carrying for many lifetimes. So, yeah, then we are trapped in that and we can't actually receive all the mercy and the power which the holy name carries. And as we all know, Shikshastikam, Chinada Pisanichana, so only if we are more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than the tree, only then we can actually chant. So this realization one day really struck me. And I thought, what's the point in conducting all these holy name retreats if we don't at the same time bring attention to this topic of the false ego? And then another thing is that the bigger the false ego is, the less we see it. You would think it should be the other way around, that the bigger and more prominent it is, the more obvious it is to see. But no, it's like that the false ego blocks our ears, blocks our intelligence. We can't see, we can't recognize. And in this regard, I want to share a funny little story. Some years ago, I was speaking to one lady, and she has quite a dominant and prominent false ego. And as a result, she gets herself always into trouble and conflicts. So, and one day she kind of turned to me and revealed her heart a little bit. So I thought, all right, let me try and help her to understand what the problem is. So and I was very careful because I know the false ego doesn't like to be poked, you know. So all I said is, well, you know, our false ego always gets us into trouble. That's all I said. And her response was quite interesting. She was laughing it off. Come on, false ego, what's that? I don't have that. That's what she said. Come on, what's that? False ego, I don't have that. And I was shocked. I thought, how is it possible? When a person is so tormented by the false ego, can we take this bucket away with a... I can... yeah, take it out, because it immediately affects my voice. Yeah, so I was shocked, thinking, what is this? Somebody has such a prominent false ego, and then thinks they don't have a false ego. How is it possible? You know? And I first didn't know what to say, but then I simply said, I wish I could say this about myself, that I don't have a false ego. That's all I said. I didn't say any more than that. Because I knew no point. If somebody thinks they don't even have a false ego, you know, she will not be willing to hear anything else. You know? Yeah, so, and then another time, many years ago, I was giving a couple of sessions on this topic in Vrindavan. And then after I had finished, one lady came up to me who I know for many years. She's a seriously practicing devotee, living for over 20 years in Vrindavan. So she was saying to me, oh, thank you for this seminar. Now I understand that I have a false ego. That's what she said, after 20 years of practice. Now I understand, you know. And she was saying, I always thought this is just some theoretical, philosophical thing which has no relevance to me. That's what she said. But now I understand, you know. And I thought, my God, you know, how many more people are walking around like that, thinking they don't have a false ego and it's not a relevant thing for them, you know? Yes. So all these things were inspiring me to give this topic a little bit more attention. And I do like all these topics which are rather subtle, because very easily we overlook them, we don't even identify them. And in fact, we can easily miss the target of Krishna consciousness altogether. That we simply feed and boost the false ego, trying to become a more and more important person, and you know, instead of subduing and dissolving it. It's all happening in the name of preaching. Yes. Oh yes. You know, Shikshastika, we recite, I don't want any followers, right? But then, you know, aren't we all running after followers with our YouTube channels and Facebook pages, and then, and devotees have shared this with me, because in the longer seminar, I address all these topics. That's why I don't even maintain a YouTube channel, and, you know, I don't worry about it. I don't want to fall into this trap, you know, of thinking, oh, everybody has to know me, and people have shared with me how they get all agitated when they don't get so many views and likes, and other devotees, their friends, or they have more views and likes, and what's wrong with me, and you know. So this is all false ego stuff, my God, you know. And we may not even realize. I mean, these days, any fool number one can become world famous overnight, you know, just by posting some crazy stuff The more crazy, the more views you get. You know? Yes, yes. I mean, before internet, this was not possible. You know, but now I come across this, even young devotees who hardly even I initiated. Oh, they want to be preachers and they have their YouTube channel and oh my God, you know. But in the early days, you first had to actually perform some serious tapasya. You know, yes, yes, yes. And you wouldn't even have an audience as a young bhakta. Who would listen to you? You know, yes. But now, you know, through the social media, anybody can reach anybody. You know, yeah, there's a big danger in these things. Yes. Anyway, so all these observations, you know, and another one, of course, well, I don't want to sound critical. I'm just making the diagnose here. I'm coming from medical background, so I still have this approach of preaching. Let's make the diagnose. What's the root problem here, and what's the medicine, and are we taking the medicine? You know. But yeah, having been around for over 40 years full time, I gave up my professional career already before I met Krishna consciousness. So yeah, having been around for a few years, you observe, you know, how sometimes we get so attached to title and position, you know, and I was scratching my head thinking, well, Shastra is promising detachment. So where is it? You know, what's happening? So somehow we must be missing something here, you know? Yes, yes. And it's good to make that diagnose, otherwise we may have some doubts in the process of Krishna consciousness, you know? We may think, yes, this chanting doesn't work. Look, even after 35, 40 years, we're running after title and position and. So it's not working. You know? But no, it is working. But it is just so subtle. Yes, and often we overlook these subtleties. You know? Yes. Anyway, so much just as a little introduction. So now let us understand false ego. What is it? So we know the soul is covered by the gross body, made from earth, water, fire, air, ether. So, and then there's the subtle body, mind, intelligence, false ego. Here we have it. So it's the most subtle element of the subtle material body, right? And as we said, it's so subtle that very easily we miss it, you know. And just like in the gross body, you show me where is the earth in your body. You can't, you know, it's all mixed. Earth, water, fire, ether, it's all mixed. You can't separate them actually, you know. So in a sense, it is also similar with the subtle body, mind, intelligence, thoughts, ego. Very difficult to separate because they affect each other backwards and forwards, you know. But definitely the false ego is the most subtle part, you know. Yes, that's for sure. And basically, in a nutshell, false ego means we think ourselves to be something which we are not. So if there's a false ego, there must also be a true ego. So what's the true ego? Servant. Jiva Svabha Krishna Nityadas. That's the true ego, the true, you know, position, our true identity. Yeah. So, and false ego means we think ourselves to be something which we are not. And of course, the main thing we think ourselves to be is the enjoyer. And that is the root cause, you know, for material existence. mind intelligence gets contaminated by the false ego, and, you know. And interestingly, false ego already starts affecting us at very young age. Small child. I remember I was once visiting one family. Their daughter was around 1 year of age. She couldn't even talk yet, but she could walk. So, and while I was talking to the parents there in the lounge room, she was getting all her toys from her room. And I didn't think it was such an important and remarkable thing. But then the mother said, she's showing off her toys because you are here. And I thought, oh my God, you know, that's already when it starts. Young, 1 year of age, can't even talk yet. But the toys, my toys are so special, and because they're my toys, that's why I am so special. That's what the false ego is whispering in our ear there, you know, already at that age, you know. And false toys are like the first possession of a human being. My toy, that's why the kids are always fighting over the toys, you know. Yeah. And even before 1 year of age, you know, kids often make some tantrums and so on, and want to get their false ego battle, want to be victorious in their false ego battle and. So it starts at very young age. And basically, as we grow, we accept all these designations, right? So I'm a boy, I'm a girl, I'm a good girl, I'm a bad boy, you know. That's why we should never label kids and tell them, oh, you're a bad boy, or you're an intelligent boy. This all, you know, the children take this up as some designation and develop all kinds of unhealthy patterns of behaviors, especially if it's negative. You know? When a small child hears, you're bad, you're foolish, you're stupid, you know, this can be damaging for life. You know, it's so subtle, you know. Yes. Yeah, so then as the child grows, all right, I'm a boy, I'm a girl. So then comes the nationality. I'm Indian, I'm German, I'm Russian, I'm whatever. So then student, I'm a medical student, IT student, engineering student, and. So we accept all these designations. The layer of designations is getting thicker and thicker, you know. So then we may get married, now I'm husband, I'm wife, I'm father, I'm mother, and. And even when we join Krishna consciousness, it doesn't end there. I'm a brahmachari, I'm a paka brahmachari, and I'm the bhakta leader, and I'm the head pujari, and the head cook, and you know, yeah, so many designations. And of course, they're like roles we are playing. This is very natural. You know, we have all different roles. In the office, at work, we play a certain role. Then in our family, we play a certain role. Then when we come to the temple, we play a different role. So, nothing wrong with that. We all play different roles. Like we wear certain caps or hats. You know, one for the summer, one for the winter, or whatever. So, but usually when we wear a cap or a hat, let's hope we are not really identifying so much with that. Of course, if it's a really extravagant hat, you know, then we may also, oh, I'm so special, this hat is a really important part of me, and when I lose it, oh my God, I lost a part of me, can also be, but as a rule, we don't identify so much with a hat, right? But with these roles, we do identify. So now my question to you, why do we identify so much with these roles? Any suggestion from your side, just to make you think a little bit, so you don't fall asleep here? Why? Yeah, ignorance is definitely one reason, because we identify with the body, we don't know the true self is the soul. But what else? There is one other good reason, or bad reason. You know, one other strong reason why we identify with these roles. Our desire. Can you explain that a bit more? We want to desire the material assets. So, in that way, our false ego makes us identify with them so that I can enjoy, or I can control, or I can maintain. Yes, we're getting pretty close. But how can desire is due to envy towards Krishna? How else can we let somebody else have a chance? Because we are conditioned because of the modes of nature, yes. No, it's more in his direction there, but just a bit more precise. What are these roles doing for us? Huh? Yeah, what are we enjoying? So, they give us a sense of importance, right? I am somebody, right? Yes, they give this sense of importance. That's what the false ego likes to enjoy, that sense of importance. Yeah. And that's why we get attached to it. You know, it's all pretty subtle. You know? Yes. Yes. So, and of course, the more prominent and prestigious our role is, the more the false ego is enjoying it. Right? Yes. 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 So let us maybe do just a 2-minute personal exercise. That you turn to your neighbor and you share which is your dearmost role or hat which you're most attached to, and the thought of having to give it up is almost worse than death. Right? So you turn to your neighbor, share, just 2 minutes in pairs. 2 minutes, share something. Which role are you mostly attached? Okay, Guru Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo. So some of you were sharing something. I hope it was about the topic and not something else. Yes. Hari Bo. Hare Krishna. Yes. So we have finished now. Yeah, so for ladies, very often the role people are mostly attached to is I am mother, right? Yes, yes, because mothers sacrifice so much, you know? Yes. And then when the children are 16, 17, then the parents are meant to give up this I am the mother's hat. And we are meant to put on I'm the friend hat, you know. And very often this is so difficult for mothers. Even when the son is 45 already, you know, the mother is still harassing him, what to do, chastising him, correcting him, instructing him, trying to control him, discipline him. So it just shows how difficult it is to give up this I am the mother's hat, you know. Yes, it's a challenge, you know, to let go. Yes, and for the men, it's often different titles, positions, and not wanting to hint here at our brahmacharis who are taking part. I'm glad they're here, but I am a brahmachari. This can be a big one. Yes, because there's some prestige, some honor coming along with the saffron cloth, you know. Oh yes, yes. I have all observed it, how difficult it can be for a brahmachari to, you know, give up and move on to the next ashram. He may know exactly I'm actually not properly situated. You know, the mind is disturbed and. But then to actually take the step and give up the saffron cloth, and it's not that I'm recommending you to do that or something, but I'm just sharing, you know, can be so difficult, you know, and as soon as the mind says, what will everybody think? That's the classic false ego thing, you know, false ego is whispering in our ear, what will everybody think if I'm wearing white now? You know? Yes. I remember once in Germany at a big festival, Lord Nishingadev's appearance at Simhachalam in Germany. I was giving a few sessions on the false ego, and there was a whole group of brahmacharis in saffron there. And I couldn't help myself. I was making a few little comments about this. And then the next year, one of these boys came up to me and said, oh, Mataji, last year you gave that seminar. And it made me really think, and I realized I'm only in saffron for false ego gratification. Yes, yes. And he gave up saffron, now he's happily married, got 2 kids, you know. Yeah, because he realized, actually, you know, if that's our motive to be brahmachari, then obviously it's very unhealthy, it's the wrong motive, you know, yes. And he was honest and introspective enough to actually realize, I've got the wrong motive here, you know, yes. Yeah, so anyway, as I'm saying, I'm not recommending you to put on white tomorrow or something, but just as a little bit of food for thought, it's no harm, you know. Yes, so, and of course, if we think ourselves to be something which we are not, we cannot be peaceful, right? Because we always have to pretend to be something which we are actually not. Oh my God, so much anxiety. Let us imagine we are like the cleaner in a company. That's our position. And then one day we say, I'm actually the chief director here. My God, that would be a nightmare. So much anxiety. How can I convince everybody that I'm the director? And what if they actually realize I'm not the director? Right? So much anxiety. And then after a few days we say, actually, I was just joking, I'm the cleaner. Oh, thank God, you know. I don't have to be something which I'm not. I don't have to pretend, you know. So it's a relief. It's a relief. So the more we are actually accepting our position as servant, the more we are giving up the false ego's demands, the more peaceful and happy we will be. You know, yes, it really works that way. Yeah, yeah. And already yesterday, for those who were here yesterday, who was here yesterday, just to see many of you, but not everybody. So yesterday we were talking a little bit about the nonsensical stage performance, right? So that is such a perfect combination of words that Prabhupada is making here. You know, so that's exactly what the false ego entangles us in this nonsensical stage performance, that we can imagine every lifetime as a performance on the stage. One life, Indian man's body, and we're running. I'm so busy, I've got so many important things to do, no time for this Krishna consciousness, busy. Then death comes, curtain is closing, show is over, it's all finished. On the next life, if you're unlucky, a German woman's body in Germany. So, and again, running. Oh, I'm so busy, so many important things to do, and you know, and then again, death, curtain closes, show is over. Then maybe next life, dog in Sweden, barking. You know, the dogs in Sweden have a pretty nice life, not like here in India, you know. They're all worshipped and, you know, taken care of very nicely. So yeah, dogs also have a dog's mind, dog's intelligence, definitely dog's false ego. Dogs have a big false ego, you know, barking, biting, get out of here, this is my property, who are you? And, you know, yeah, so nonsensical stage performance, you know. And the false ego is what entangles us into this nonsensical stage performance, you know. Yes. So now, before I want to move on and discuss one verse from Bhagavad Gita, let me maybe see if there's any questions just about what we discussed. Not something which we haven't discussed yet, but just about these topics, these introductory, setting the scene type thing topics on the false ego. Is there anything which needs further clarification? Any question? Anything?
In Srila Prabhupada's books, one line frequently Prabhupada uses, that the propensity to lord it for material nature. Is it related to this topic? Can you explain?
Yeah, of course. Lording it over means controlling, you know. So the main thing we think ourselves to be, which we are not, is the enjoyer, the controller, proprietor, you know. That we see ourselves as the center and we view everything in relationship to me, how can I use this for my advantage, my enjoyment, my interest, to control, to enjoy, to, get more and more. Yeah, that's basically the basic functions of the false ego: controller, enjoyer, and proprietor. Yeah, and that's how we lord it over. Yes. Yeah, or the controlling propensity, very strong, very strong. That's why old age is so purifying, because gradually the body falls apart and we lose control even over bodily functions, and this is really crushing the false ego. Oh yes, it's a whole purifying journey. I'm describing all that in the false ego book. Yeah, I mean, Krishna has really devised the perfect journey for us here, to hopefully meet death with joy and go back to God. Old age disease, such a humbling journey. Yeah, because you can't be the big person with the big achievements, and it's very humbling, very humbling. Any other points?
Like you said, small kid, 1 year old also carries false ego.
Sorry, 1 year old. Yes, yeah.
Carries false ego. Dog also carries false ego.
Hmm?
So dog.
Yes, yes.
So subtle mind and intelligence, it carries that false ego from a past lives, right?
Yeah, see, at the moment of death, the soul travels with a subtle body of mind, intelligence, for the ego to its next destination, depending on the composition of the subtle body, what attachments, desires there are, and of course what activities we have performed. So the same subtle body of mind, intelligence, thoughts, ego has been accompanying us for many lifetimes. We can imagine it like a computer chip with so much information there. So much. Oh my God. We can't even imagine. So, and to go back to Godhead is only possible if the subtle body of mind, intelligence, thoughts, ego is fully transformed and spiritualized. All the material aspects, impressions, desires, attachments, they have to be replaced with spiritual impressions and experiences and desires and attachments. And. So it requires a lot of work, actually.
So which means
Huh?
when we take birth, then we must be mandatorily
We must be
mandatorily, compulsorily condition.
Yes,
in
of course.
association, which makes us spiritual.
Huh? What?
Which makes us spiritual, which makes us, the association, we must be given that association, which makes us unconditioned with that false ego. We should,
Yeah, I mean, see, whatever advancement we have made in one life, we always are allowed to keep that. And in the next life, we start off from there and we continue. Thank God. Otherwise, we would have no chance. If we always had to start with zero again, we would never make it. So, but the free will is there of the living entity, to either turn to Krishna or to turn to Maya. So that's the only real free will and independence we have. So it's not happening automatically or something, So at any time, a soul can decide, this way or that way, Yes. But good to understand how much deep internal work is actually required to go back to God. When do we have the death session? On Tuesday, I think. Tuesday evening. Interesting topic, so please come. Do we have any other thing? Yes?
If any devotee is taking care of some department, if he is not attached, or how we can have a understanding between I can excel in the seva which have been allotted to me, and at the same time I not being attached to that position. How we can ensure that both things are happening.
Well, I mean, see, when we serve in association of devotees under senior guidance, that's where we will be exposed, you know? Because daily life in service always brings some challenges for the Vorsieger, you know? When things don't go the way we want to go, you know, or we have to cooperate. So that's why Prabhupada said, if you really love me, your love will be shown in how much you cooperate. So this cooperation is one of the biggest challenges in Kali Yuga. Why? Because of false ego. You know? Yes. Even in family life. Oh, it's a whole purifying journey for the false ego to cooperate. That's why people rather get divorced, you know, and run off rather than accepting that challenge of doing some internal work, you know. They don't want to do that. They just want to stick to their ego thing and rather separate and, you know, get together with somebody else or whatever. You know? So, I mean, we can't really hide, you know. So that's why it is so important that we really put ourselves in the fire of devotional service in cooperation with other devotees under senior guidance. If we keep aloof and we just sit at home and we do our little puja and we chant and we do some little seva on internet, the fire of purification will not be switched so high. It will be low flame. You know? Yeah. Low flame. But when we serve, when we cooperate, when we have to adjust, when we hear to other people's opinions and that's where the intense purification happens. And especially when, you know, when the service mood is more intense. Let's say, you know, Janmashtami comes up or Prabhupada Marathon, you know, when we get out of our comfort zone and we have to do a bit of extra. So then very often there's more clashes and right? Yeah. So that's because of the false ego. You know, the false ego feels uncomfortable, you know. Yeah, so yeah, you can see it all, you know. So, and I mean, this wanting to excel, we just park that for a minute because we will get there. Actually, maybe let's move on. Let me turn to this verse 1858 from Bhagavad Gita. There Krishna is giving us two options of acting, two choices. So option number one, he says, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. That's option number one. So, being conscious of Krishna, what does it mean in our discussion here? How do we act? Yes, we act as servant. in the consciousness of being servant, not enjoying, controlling, proprietor, but simply servant. So if we act in that consciousness, and of course it also means we accept Krishna's recommendations, Krishna's instructions, so then we act in consciousness of Krishna, and then we can pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by His grace. Wow! So it means actually being servant is the solution to every problem. And it may sound a little simplistic or something, but actually, no, it's not. Let us take some examples of everyday life in an ISKCON temple. Let us imagine we have a position. We are the Sankirtan leader or the regional secretary or whatever it may be. So, and then one day somebody comes, the GBC comes and says, "Oh, Prabhu, we are thinking maybe somebody else should take that post." So, if we are servant, no problem. Okay, fine. All I want to do is serve. And I thought I can serve you all by being the regional secretary or head pujari or whatever. But if you have a different opinion, okay, fine, just let me know how I can serve. No issue whatsoever, right? But usually it doesn't work that way. Anybody who's been around for a while, they have observed this. That sometimes, oh my God, it's a whole battle and all politics. And, I know communities where somebody was kind of removed by a senior authority, but the person doesn't want to accept. And then the yatra splits, and then he runs off, he splits off with his followers, doesn't accept, that somebody else should do it. Oh, God. Yes. That attachment, so strong, I like to make this joke, which is actually not a joke, it's true. I've witnessed it, that sometimes the only way how to remove somebody from a higher position is to promote him. Okay, you become the GBC for some lost and forgotten island, And then the person is happy, okay, I give up temple presidency. I'm the GBC now for some island which nobody even goes, but doesn't matter. Main thing is I'm a GBC now. I've heard GBCs joking about it, What post can we give him? Okay, let's make him the GBC of some place, just move him on, Krishna. Or let's imagine a different example. Let's imagine we are a traveling preacher. We are a traveling preacher. So, and we visit a temple, and we are scheduled to give the Sunday feast lecture. But then some more senior person comes, some Maharaj comes unexpectedly. Then the temple president comes up to us and says, "Oh, sorry, Prabhu, I think we should invite Maharaj to give the class." If we are humble servant, no problem, We can serve by hearing, we can serve by speaking, no problem, it's all the same. But if we are not in the mood of humble servant, we get all agitated. What is this? I'm scheduled. This person didn't even, announce that he would come. And this is my chance to meet the congregation. I'm never ever going to come to this yatra again, this temple, And that person gets all agitated and angry, Yeah, I've seen all these things, so really, I mean, it's a good thing to keep in the back of our minds, that whenever we face some challenges, let's try and make these 2 steps back and ask ourselves, am I a true servant here? Or am I trying to dominate and control and enjoy and also in any kind of family arguments? If husband and wife would be true servants, there would be no marriage problems, you know? But because we are expecting, demanding, wanting to enjoy and control, and so that's where all the marriage problems come in. Yes. So being true servant really offers the solution to every problem. It really does. Yeah. So then, second option Krishna gives us. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. Yes, we will be lost. So at the latest, we will be lost at the moment of death, when we have to take one more round in the material world, but usually so many times already before then we get lost, you know, yes. And it's interesting to see when we look back in our life, whenever we were facing some challenges, some suffering, now looking back, we may realize, yes, I was acting through false ego, and that's how I created my own misery. I tried to prove that I know better, or I wanted to be the hero who saves the situation, and you know, so yeah, false ego is really what creates our miseries. Yes, yes. By acting through false ego, you know, it backfires. At that moment, we may not be able to see it because false ego is blocking our ears and intelligence. But then maybe 10 years later, we got a bit of purification, and then looking back, we realize, yeah, of course, you know, how else could it be? I was acting under the false ego, trying to be somebody who I'm actually not, and that's what created the whole unpleasant situation. You know? Yeah, so it's very practical, you know, very practical. So now that verse also tells us that there are 2 motivating forces. What? I'm still, it's not question time now. Sorry.
No, I just missed out the second part of it. The first part you mentioned about being a true servant, and what is the second?
Well, I was reading it. Krishna says, if, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not as a servant, but through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. That's the second option, right? Either we act through, you know, being conscious of Krishna, meaning I am servant, you know, then we can overcome all the obstacles of material life, as we discussed the examples. Or the second option of acting is through false ego motivation. Yeah. And then we will be lost. We create our miseries. Yeah. And the examples are there, you know, when the leader doesn't want to give up his position and he's struggling and you know, or the preacher gets all agitated because he's not invited to give the Sunday peace class or whatever, you know. Yeah. So this verse also tells us that there are these two motivating forces in life, right? So in material life, it's the ambitiousness, the false ego motivating force. That's the path to success. You know, I want to become a doctor, lawyer, whatever. You know, we take some designation which we feel will give a lot of, you know, enjoyment and recognition to our false ego. And we strive for that. We want to become that kind of person, right? That's the ambitious false ego motivating force. So that's the path of success in material life. And very easily we take this also into our spiritual life, you know, because we are used to it. We don't know anything else out there, you know. So, and then we take that into our spiritual life. Yes, I want to become a world famous kirtaniya and a preacher and this guru, sannyasi, GBC, whatever. Yeah, so that's the material motivating force, false ego, ambitiousness. Yeah, it's material because it actually, the center is our recognition, our glory, not Krishna's glory, you know? Yes. And that actually poisons it. Yes. That contaminates the whole endeavor because it's for my glory. Yeah. So, and what's the motivating force of a Vaishnava? You tell me. So, what's the motivating force? Yes. All I want to do is serve. Doesn't matter what, how, where. All I want to do is serve. I want to give myself in service. That's all I'm interested in. Yeah. And interestingly, you know, if we have that service mood that we simply want to serve, that Paramatma in the heart witnesses that and arranges all the right doors and opportunities to open up at the right time. So as devotees, we don't have to plan a whole career in Krishna consciousness. I want to become this, that, the other thing. No need. If we just give ourselves in service, 99% of our energy, we sacrifice ourselves in service. That's the path to success in spiritual life. That attracts Krishna's mercy. Yeah. Because especially when it comes to preaching or when it comes to doing anything, if we want to make a little contribution to Prabhupada's mission, you know, we actually need some little empowerment. And that empowerment comes when we sacrifice ourselves selflessly in service. That attracts Krishna's merciful glance and empowerment. Yes. Not the false ego motivation. Yes. And we can see, you know, the whole first generation Prabhupada disciples, you know, they were willing to, those who were still around, they were willing to sacrifice themselves for Prabhupada. And that's what empowered them. You know, there was no YouTube to become famous and no. They didn't go that path. You know, yes. They sacrificed themselves for Prabhupada. And that's what empowered them, you know. I mean, in the early days, there was even no Bhakti Shastri, no Bhakti Vaibhava, nothing of all these things, you know. Well, of course, it's good that they're there now, but sometimes I feel we are running too much after certificates, and we forget that actually the true way to receive some mercy and blessings and empowerment is by sacrificing ourselves. Even when I joined in 85, the mood was very different than today. Oh yes, we were really sacrificing ourselves. Oh my God, I don't even want to tell what crazy things we were all doing, you know. My God, all for Prabhupada's mission and staying up all night and collecting on Sankirtan in the most weird places and you know, yeah, but we did all this just to please Guru and Prabhupada, you know, yes, yes. And that spirit is really lost now, you know, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, I was for 4 years in the ladies' ashram in Sydney. So Prabhupada established women's ashrams in the West because he saw, you know, traditionally the women, they get the training in the families. Extended family is like a women's ashram. You know, there's so many sisters and aunties and mothers, grandmothers. So that's nothing else but a brahmacharini ashram, you know. So, and I was for 4 years in the ladies' ashram. And we really, we had not this independent spirit like it is now, you know. Now. We would never even get the idea to say, oh, I want to go 6 months to India. No, it was unheard of. You know, we were serving in the ashram, and all right, when we were good girls, somebody took us for 4 weeks to India, then we had to come back into service. That was the spirit, you know. But now the young people, they want to do their thing, and oh, I want to go here and there, and oh, no, surrendering and accepting some inconvenience. I mean, we were living in the back of Sankirtan vans at -15, you know. Yes, yeah, the condensation was all little icicles in my Sankirtan van. You know, yeah, my water bottles were frozen solid ice when I got up out of my sleeping bag. You know, yes, such kind of austerities we were doing, you know, even we ladies too, you know, yes. Yeah, so whatever little preaching I can do, I'm convinced it's coming because of these austerities. I'm not that learned. I'm not a pundit. I haven't studied that much, you know, but I've got a few strong convictions and realizations. They're simply coming from Krishna because of these many years of austerities. Yeah. Usually I don't really share these things so much, but yeah, so the spirit was very different, you know, but as I mentioned, you know, in the beginning, now any fool number one can become famous overnight by just posting some ridiculous things. You know, that spirit of really tapasya is a little lost, you know. Yes. Yeah, so, but good to understand, you know, that we need this empowerment. And then we can actually do something for Prabhupada, you know. But we don't get that empowerment if we just run after for its ego gratification and try to become a famous person there or something. You know, that's not the path, you know. Yes. Yeah, so the order has to come from above, especially in regards to preaching. Yes. The order has to come from above. I remember once I was giving this seminar in full length in Mayapur, and then one devotee was asking, but Mataji, didn't you have a plan to become a worldwide traveling preacher and write books? No, I never had that plan. I never even thought I could write or anything. No, no. Shivam Swami ordered me. He said, now you've got your institute. Where are your books? You have to write. Yes, I was completely shocked. Me writing what? How would you even write a book? It seemed like an impossible mission to me. I never even thought of it. And then every time I saw him, he asked me again, so when are you going to start writing? Yes, it was a strong order there. Yes, yeah. So and then I went to Naranja Swami, to Diksha Guru. I had a few before him who are not guru anymore. So and then I asked him, so Shivam Swami told me I should write, so what do you think? And then he said, yeah, if you feel you've got something to share with the devotees, you should write. And then, oh my God, how would I ever do it? Yes. Yeah, but now often you find young devotees, hardly even initiated. Oh, I want to write a book. Huh? What's that? Yes, the order has to come from above. Otherwise, very easily, most likely, it's the false ego pushing us and motivating us. Yes. That we want to become a famous person, an author, and write books or something. Yes. So order has to come from above. Even in preaching, we might think we are such a good speaker, but maybe other people have a different opinion, So, yes. So, yeah, the order has to come from above. And of course, it doesn't mean that we can't have maybe some idea what service we could do, so we can humbly share this, Yes. Actually, since I'm sharing a few personal things here, let me share. I was married for 10 years, just in case you don't know. And in that time, we pioneered the first more organized temple in the former Soviet Union. So, and then my husband left me, left Krishna consciousness. And while I was married, very intuitively, I felt, no, it's not the right time to sit on the Vyasa-san and give lectures. I left that up to my husband, Yeah. But I was conducting ladies' programs very regularly. We had a big community. And also Sankirtan meetings, Pujari meetings, all these things. But I was never sitting on the Vyasa-san. So, and then even though devotees were saying, oh, maybe Devaki Mataji should also give a class, but no, I somehow felt, no, I don't want to compete with my husband, and he should do that. He was the temple president. So, and then when my husband left Krishna consciousness, then one day Naranja Swami, who was not my guru at the time, he was GBC in the country where we were. So I went to him and I said to him, so I think maybe I could preach a little bit. And he jumped off his seat. You want to preach? Come to Ukraine. Yes. He jumped off his seat and he asked me to come to Ukraine. And then every time I met him, he asked me again, so when are you coming to Ukraine? And I was saying to him, I first have to practice a bit. I have to start giving a few Bhagavatam classes, So, yeah, but definitely the order came from above, Yes. And then we can be sure that at least the initial motivating force is not ego-driven, Yes. Of course, it can still enter. Oh, yes, of course it can enter, Yes. But at least the start, is not that, we are so ambitious here and we are so eager to speak and be heard and. Yes. So in saying this does not mean that the false ego is all bad. Actually, false ego has some little good aspect to it too. because at least it gets us going, right? Yes, because in the initial stage, when we come newly to Krishna consciousness, that motivating force of I want to serve Guru and Krishna is not so strongly developed yet, right? So initially, there is definitely a good portion of false ego motivation there, but at least it gets us going, it gets us moving, That's why on book distribution, Prabhupada Marathon, Prabhupada introduced that we read out the scores, right? Just to introduce a bit of competition there for the ego. I remember I was on Sankirtan many years. When we had a small day, we would rather not even hand in the scores. We would not hand in the scores. We would not say. We would rather not be mentioned at all than only one book. Too embarrassing for the false ego. When your name is not mentioned, then people think maybe she didn't go out today, So that's how the false ego is there, Yes. But then eventually we have to purify this false ego motivation. Otherwise we will not last on book distribution. So initially there is some good point in it, because it gets us going. So once I heard in a lecture that statement, false ego should be given up, but not too quickly. First we have to parallel develop a little bit of a mood of wanting to serve. It's a whole transformation there of motivating force. We start off with the false ego, and then gradually, we bring in the service mood there more and more. Yes. Definitely also family life, grihastha ashram. It is, it needs that sense of ownership. Definitely. My house, my car, my wife, my children, that gets us motivated, responsible, dutiful. Yeah. Like here in India, it's maybe a little different. Like in the West, the temples cannot afford to have a driver for the temple cars. Do you have a driver? No, I mean, do the devotees just drive the cars, or do you have paid drivers? Yeah, see, in the West we can't afford this. In the West we would have to pay, 2,500 euros per month for a driver.
We are rich.
No temple in the Western world can pay people to drive a car. So, because of that, the temple cars in the West, anybody drives them. In the West, everybody has a driver's license and everybody drives. And everybody bashes the cars around, and scratches them up. And the temple cars, they always look like bombs. They're very badly maintained because, it's just a temple car, Yes. But when it comes to my car, then I'm very nicely taking care of it. So in the West, I recommend the secret is put the car in somebody's care. Give them the false ego thing of thinking it's my car. Then it will be well maintained. As a Sankirtan devotee, I had my Sankirtan car. I had the keys. Nobody could use it unless they asked me, and I was checking, and is it in good order, and. So this false ego motivating force which is positive. It makes us responsible and dutiful. And definitely family life without the sense of ownership, people would not be motivated, So it's like Krishna is tricksing us, with this false ego that motivates us, but then gradually we have to let go of this false ego motivating force and grihastha life. We have to realize they're not my kids, but Krishna just puts these spirit souls under my care for some years, and then I have to let them grow up and find their own path in life, So we have to let go of this I, me, and mine, Yes. But it's not all bad, It has some good part in it too, because it gets us going, Yes. So let me see, do we have any questions about this? These two options of acting, two kinds of motivating forces. Is there anything we should discuss a little more?
So, Mataji, this nonsensical stage performance that we have been performing since time immemorial. In this lifetime, to Grahastha Ashram, you say that it is a motivating force, so we can keep it. But that also can be done in the mode of servant, and the servant we can take care of family.
Yeah, definitely.
Because of the education missing from our childhood, the Vedic education that was given in Gurukul. So now we think that in family life we only become responsible when we have this false ego. Otherwise, in Vedic tradition they were having like different consciousness. On the same stage, maintaining false ego for some time, and then one plus we have to completely wind it up. Becomes really difficult.
Yeah. But I dare say, even when we come from the Vedic upbringing and training, still, my wife, my children, my husband, it's there. It's there. It doesn't matter how Vedic our training was. It is there because it is so subtle. That's why we are concerned so much more about my children and we don't care about other people's children. So if we were beyond that, we would feel that same compassion and affection and concern for any child, not only mine, Yes. So I dare say it is just a part of the whole journey there, Yes.
So what do you suggest for the devotees when you mentioned that we are so independent now these days? You all always got order from the seniors and order very seriously. But as you said, we are feeling in the same sort of how to deal with that, because this will not be healthy for our movement to grow in the future. When independence will further grow and we will just think of not taking any instructions, and it will become an anarchy kind of situation.
Yeah. Well, what to do, We can't do more than bringing attention to it and, talking about it and trying to set ourselves the example of, being more dedicated and surrendered and but also it cannot be forced. I guess, see, like when I think back of when I joined, that was 85, it was not so long after Prabhupada left, it was only 8 years after Prabhupada left. So there were so many Prabhupada disciples there, the temple in Sydney, there was many Prabhupada disciples there. So that whole spirit somehow was there. And also Kali Yuga had not advanced as much. There's a big difference in 40 years. So, yeah, we have to take all these things into account. And, well, also, of course, we can say maybe as senior devotees, we have to really earn the trust and the faith of devotees, you know, that people actually want to really surrender and so on, you know. It's not something one can demand, you know. Yes, yes, yes.
Just like you said that in the initial phase we have to just give us some selflessly in the service, moral service, and we have to get instruction from the top. Uh, in this connection, I have a question like we may have some special skills, some special talent, like Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita that everyone has their varna and they should be engaged according to their varna. Varna and Ashrama. Yes. So, according to the individual special skills and talents, so whether one should approach his senior when the senior is not aware of his special skills. So, whether that candidate should approach the senior, will that come into the ego-driven category, or how we can just understand that is it ego-driven approach or selfless approach?
Well, as far as I know, Prabhupada himself was recommending that even when highly educated people come, they first should do some humble service. They should sweep the floor. You know, this is also a little bit of a thing in India, you know, because you have so many workers who do the more menial things, then very often we lose that mood of doing the menial services. Again, in the Western world, we don't have that. We don't have that. I've seen the temple presidents after Sunday program going to the pot shed and washing pots. The temple president. Yes, that's the mood in the West. Yes, yes. You know, there we are eager to clean the floor and do these menial services just to cultivate the humble mood. But in India, you know, the big temples, they have all the paid people who do all that, you know, and then easily, yeah, we become some little kings there or something, you know. So, and I mean, it's even in the household the same. You know, here everybody has maids. In the West, we can't pay maids. No, we have to clean the floor ourselves. Yes, and clean the bathroom and all that, you know. And I believe, I heard this, I haven't read it, but I heard it, somebody mentioning that Prabhupada was saying, yes, in India, everybody has servants, and then they become like Ravana. Yes. So, I mean, of course, I know there's also a lot of benefits, you know, and having somebody helping in the household, and it's not that I'm, you know, criticizing that or something, but it's good to be a little careful, you know, good to be a little careful that we don't lose the spirit of doing humble service, you know, yes. And to go back to your question, as far as I remember, I heard this, that Prabhupada was saying, even when highly educated people come, they first should do some menial service. They should sweep the floor and become humble servant. Because if we empower people too quickly, just based on their material qualification, then very easily people become proud, you know? And then they think, oh, look, I'm a new bhakta, but I can do already all these things. And look at these spaced out brahmanas, they can't get anything together, but I can do it all. You know, and especially to put people in charge of other people. You know, this often we do these mistakes that just because of material qualification, we empower people too quickly. and it can poison their whole bhakti ladder. Yeah.
His question is whether we should tell our skill to the seniors, the skill that we possess.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm saying first become a humble servant. You know, don't hanker to be engaged after my skills, you know, according to my skills. I mean, ultimately, especially when we are in the ashram, when we live in the temple, you know, we want to develop an unconditional service mood. You know, not conditional. Oh, I only want to work according to my qualification and my skills and all this. What is this? This is not unconditional. That can be done later when we are married and we have to earn some income. That's where the Varnashram is. All right, be engaged according to your nature and your qualities. But when it comes to young devotees being trained, you know, let's become unmotivated, selfless. Yes. I mean, that also was the mood in the early days, you know, that we were serving in all the different departments. When we joined the ashram, first thing was Sankirtan, going out there in the street from morning to night, traveling all around Australia in the van, and you know. So, and then when we were initiated, we were doing some other services. As soon as we were Brahmins, we ended up in the deity kitchen. We had to cook the Rajbhog and go on the altar, dress the deities, you know, and then we were basically going through all the different temple departments, getting some experience, you know. So, and that's actually what Prabhupada wanted. He wanted to be, he wanted the devotees to be experienced in everything and expert in something, you know. But sometimes you have devotees that don't even know how to make a dal or a khichdi or something. They've never served in the kitchen. You know, what is this? Or they're already 20 years in the movement, but they don't know how to do Prabhupada Guru Puja Adi, you know. So what is this? You know, we have to learn it all. We should get some experience in everything, you know, as a young devotee, you know. And then the Varnashram thing, that is more as a Grihastha, you know. Yeah. So good to also do services which we don't like to do so much, cleaning the toilets, you know. So, yes, it scrubs the heart by doing these menial services, you know. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Sometimes I heard in some classes that when like we are in a position of engaging someone, so when we don't engage the devotees according to their capabilities, so devotees become a disturbed and eventually they leave the movement and go out. So
Well, see, this is depending on how much you preach to them to surrender, you know? Yes. If you actually preach to them to surrender and do the needful and become selfless and unconditional in your service, so it requires some expertise, you know, that all right, in the beginning stage we may not want to do any service, so we give them something that they like to do, but then a bit of toilet cleaning also, you know, yes. So we have to learn to, you know, engage people like that they also get some benefits of purification. But if we only do what we like to do, oh, well, let's be honest, we would do it anyway, you know. You imagine a friend of yours says, oh, I'm doing this only for you. But you know exactly, no, you're not doing it for me, you're doing it for your own satisfaction. You know, so that's how Krishna thinks, you know. Yes. So obviously it is a sign of beginning of love that you make a sacrifice for somebody. You do something which you usually would never ever want to do, but for Krishna you do it. These are two angas in the nectar of devotion, you know, that we accept something which we would never ever want to accept. But for Krishna's pleasure, we are willing to accept. And that we give something up which we never ever wanted to give it up, but for Krishna's sake, for his pleasure, we are willing to give it up. So that's the beginning of bhakti, you know? Yes. But if we just do what we want to do anyway, that's karma yoga. That's not bhakti. Bhakti is unmotivated, selfless, sacrificing ourselves, you know? So we have to preach that if we want to help people develop bhakti, you know, right? So we have to discriminate where people are at. You know, if we're too pushy and forceful, well, then they may be leaving, you know, but if we explain them and we give them a mixed package of service, then they will not leave, especially if we have trusting relationships with them, you know. Yes. All right, what else?
Mataji, you mentioned about ambitiousness. This is also a category comes under policy too. But nowadays, if we see ISKCON,
Ambitiousness, yes.
ISKCON leaders are promoting even if any devotee is capable enough, they can go to politics and
They can do what?
They can take up to a political career,
Okay.
and because we need such kind of people who can
Yeah.
take to those kind of position where it would be a mass preaching or a mass help for
Yeah.
ISKCON.
Yeah.
So how can we coordinate this aspect? And I have further one more question that's related to this also. You mentioned about YouTube videos. There are different devotees who are posting. So now if we see, that is the era of internet. Most of people are on internet, and if devotees are posting, there are many people who are unnecessarily putting different reels. It is better the devotees also put some reels which will positive reels which will help the
Yeah, of course. See, the point is the motivation is very subtle, you know? Just the fact that a person can be ambitious as a politician or a preacher or whatever doesn't mean anybody who is serving in that capacity is ambitious. So it's not a question of what a person is doing, but their motivation, their consciousness, you know? So it's not that everybody who's got a well-maintained YouTube channel is in an ambitious mood. No, that's not what we are saying, you know? But very easily, young devotees who are not deeply purified at heart, you know, very easily they fall into this trap. I'm sure we all know Keshava Swami, right? Yes, yeah. So he is a pretty charismatic, popular speaker. So once he was asked, what's your secret to success? You know, how is it that you can captivate so many devotees or people? And what was his answer? It's a result of many years of tapasya. That was his answer. You know, for so many years he was also on Mukta diffusion, traveling, accepting austerities, inconveniences, and. So, and then, you know, that empowerment comes, you know. So there's a big difference, you know, between somebody like him. You can feel it. If you're a little perceptive, you can feel that he is not running on this ambitiousness there. But no, it's simply that empowerment he got. You know, I know him from when he was Mataji and so on, you know, yeah, yes, yes. So it's simply a result of that empowerment, you know. But then there's others who have not done hardly any tapasya, that mood of sacrificing, you know, and who are just trying to become a more and more important person in this world. There is a nectar of devotion. There is this statement where Prabhupada says, anybody who wants to become a more and more important person in this world, either in a material sense or in a spiritual sense, cannot really taste the sweet taste of devotional service. Wow. When I read that the first time, it really hit me. And I thought, wow, I want to taste the real thing. I don't want to taste this false ego gratification of trying to become a more and more important person in this world. I want to taste the real thing. So I better give up this desire of wanting to become a more and more important person in this world. So it's very subtle, you know? So a devotee who is qualified, he may enter the political scene, but if he is pure at heart, he will not have that motivating force of trying to become a more and more important person in this world. You know, he will simply want to infiltrate the society in that way as servant, giving them some benefit. You know, that's the point. So it's not an external thing what a person is doing or not doing. But whether he wants to become or she wants to become a more and more important person in this world or not, that's the question, you know? Yes. See, and that's why Rupa Goswami also warns us and says, along with the Bhakti Lata, there are the weeds growing. And the weeds and the Bhakti Lata look exactly the same, you know, and we have to become an expert gardener to distinguish what's the weed of name, fame, and adoration, and what's the Bhakti Lata. Yes. Actually, just the other day, I also spoke to one devotee privately after this seminar session. Young devotee, and he actually shared with me that his counselor told him to close his YouTube channel. And I thought, Jai, there is people out there who also recognize this, you know, that when people in a too immature stage, just wanting to become famous and a more and more important person, you know, it's poisoning our development of bhakti. Yes, and he told him to close the YouTube channel, not have one. Not many people would give that instruction, you know? Not many people would. People easily may think, oh yes, it's all preaching, go for it, do it, you know? Yes. But those who can look a little deeper, you know, can distinguish. Is this, you know, some ambitiousness, you know, or is it actually really based on purity of heart and service mood and empowerment of Krishna? You know, it takes a little expertise to see it. You know. I mean, there's
How to understand empowerment of Krishna? How to understand that this is empowerment of Krishna?
well, you know, as I said yesterday, without introspection and reflection and honesty, we cannot even make any advancement. And if we have a counselor, hopefully the counselor will be qualified enough to be able to detect it, you know. And if we are running on ambitiousness, sooner or later some conflicts will come, you know. Yeah, yeah. Especially when we talk about envy. When is that? Oh, tomorrow morning, so you better come. There we will discuss how envy manifests towards seniors equals juniors. And we will realize how, well, maybe I shouldn't say it because otherwise I'm already giving some answers here for tomorrow. But yeah, we will get a few realizations, hopefully. Yes. Because envy, false ego, as I mentioned yesterday, I think they're very good friends. They always like to move around together, So false ego is the cause of envy, because false ego gives us this idea that we want to be the enjoyer, and as soon as we try to be enjoyer, then the envy comes. Yes. So yeah, in association we will be exposed. If it is ambitiousness or if it is empowerment of Krishna. Once I heard a nice thing, and maybe that's the last thing I will make, last point. If we find ourselves in the situation where we have the feeling we actually could do so much more, but somehow it's not happening, the doors are not opening up. So that means that Krishna can see that if he would allow us to be successful, no, let me put it like that. Krishna can see that we cannot handle the successes. So Krishna can see that if he would allow us to be successful, we would get puffed up. So that's why he puts the handbrakes on. So maybe some of you have been in that situation where you found yourself, thinking, oh, actually I could do so much more, but somehow it's not happening, right? Anybody has found themselves? Yes. In my life also, when I think back 20 years ago, 15 years ago, I also had that feeling, actually I could do so much more, but somehow it's not happening. So, and now looking back, I know for sure why it did not happen. Because at that stage, I was not purified enough, and I still need more purification. It's never ending, it's so subtle, But definitely looking back, I can very clearly see now why at that stage Krishna didn't open up the doors. Yes. So we should simply patiently continue purifying our heart, not getting all agitated. Oh, why are they not allowing me to do this? And my leaders, they're not favorable and supportive and whatnot. No, let's understand. Krishna will open the doors at the right time, And it's also very practical and natural if we are actually serving genuinely and we are responsible and dutiful and we sacrifice ourselves, then naturally our authorities will recognize that and see, and okay, maybe he or she can do a bit more, accept a bit more authority. It's very natural, because we all want the movement to flourish and expand. So again, the order comes from above, and it does, Usually if we are, very dutiful, that attracts more service and more opportunities, very natural. All right, so I want to use these last few minutes one more time to bring your attention to these books, because I think we have a few people here today who were not here yesterday, right? So, Spiritual Culture, Krishna's Divine System. This book is all about women. We women are very powerful. Yes, Prabhupada says that woman's energy is so much more powerful than man's energy. A woman can bring the very best out of a man.